Rain lashed against the attic window. 17-year-old Elara hurried to pull her shawl tighter around her shoulders. She'd been sitting here for hours, working on her newest painting, but the storm had come in fast and was now beating against the glass panes like an angry beast. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. It was nearly midnight. Perhaps she should head to bed. As she turned, her gaze fell on the canvas. Her latest masterpiece wasn't finished, but she couldn't bring herself to go on working. The scene before her eyes refused to materialize into something tangible. Every night for the past week, Elara had come up to her attic bedroom to paint. Every night she would begin with great enthusiasm, only to find that her focus always drifted to the same spot, the blank center of her canvas. And every night, the same thought crossed her mind. What if she could paint what she felt, not what she saw? She shook her head, dismissing the notion. It was preposterous. Feelings couldn't be painted, at least not when they were unrequited. For weeks now, her feelings for Liam had gone nowhere. He was sweet, he was handsome, and he was completely oblivious to her existence. The wind suddenly slammed against the roof, making Elara jump. She swiveled around in her chair, staring out the window to where the gnarled branches of the ancient oak tree scraped against the glass. The rain was coming down in torrents now, and the wind sounded like a banshee, wailing in the night. And then she saw it. A pair of glowing eyes watching her from the other side of the window pane. Elara gasped, pressing her forehead against the cold glass. The eyes blinked, then vanished. Had she imagined it? Was she losing her mind? When she turned back to her easel, her hands trembled so violently that her paintbrush fell to the floor with a soft thud. What if the paintings were driving her mad? Her parents had already expressed their disapproval of her work. If they knew that she was spending all her time in the attic, painting whatever dark fantasies she conjured up in her head, they would have her committed to some institution before the week was out. Elara sank onto her bed, burying her face in her hands. She needed help, someone to ground her, to bring her back to reality. But who? Her gaze fell on the portrait of Liam she had completed earlier in the week. His piercing blue eyes seemed to bore into hers. Were those really his eyes? Or had her imagination run wild? Pushing the painting away, Elara got to her feet. She needed to get out of this room, out of this house. She pulled on her cloak, then crept down the stairs, careful not to wake anyone. The storm showed no signs of letting up, so she decided to walk along the beach instead. The salty spray of the ocean mingled with the scent of wet sand and seaweed. The rhythmic crash of waves filled her ears, drowning out the turmoil in her mind. Elara wandered along the shore, occasionally kicking at stones or shells littering the sand. And then she saw it. Something large and dark was lounging on the rocks near the water's edge. At first, Elara thought it was a dog, but it was far too big, and its fur was matted and the color of dried blood. Then it lifted its head and howled. The sound tore through the night, echoing Elara's pain and torment. Terror froze her in her tracks. Could it be the beast she had seen in her window? Was it real or a figment of her imagination? What if it attacked her? The thought sent shivers down her spine. Yet something compelled her forward, urging her closer to the shadowy figure. As she drew nearer, the creature stirred and rose to its feet. In the flickering glow of the lightning, Elara saw its eyes, glowing like molten gold. Its muzzle was long and pointed, and its fangs glistened in the darkness. Its fur was matted and caked in dirt, and its claws scraped against the rocks with a sickening screech. It was a wolf, a beast straight out of a nightmare. Then it began to advance, moving with a predatory grace that sent chills down Elara's spine. Fear threatened to consume her, but she couldn't turn back. Her feet were rooted to the spot, and her eyes never left the wolf. It stopped a few paces away, regarding her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. Then it did something unexpected. It whined, a low, mournful sound that seemed to echo her own loneliness. And in that instant, something inside Elara snapped. She dropped to her knees before the wolf, tears streaming down her face. "I see you," she whispered, her voice hoarse with emotion. "I see you watching me." The wolf tilted its head, as if surprised by her words. And it took a step closer, its eyes never leaving hers. Elara held her breath, bracing for an attack, but it didn't come. Instead, the wolf lowered its head and nudged her hand with its wet nose. Tentatively, Elara reached out and stroked its fur. It was rough and bristly, but beneath that, she could feel the wolf's muscles rippling beneath its skin. As she ran her fingers over its back, the wolf leaned into her touch, letting out a low growl that rumbled deep in its chest. Suddenly, it shook its head as if coming out of a trance. It backed away from her, keeping its eyes fixed on her face. Then it turned and disappeared into the shadows. Elara sat there for a long time, the wolf's touch still tingling on her fingertips. Had she really touched a monster, or was she simply mad? When the sun finally began to rise, Elara went back to her room. Sleep was impossible. Her mind raced with thoughts of the wolf, wondering if it would come back. Would it attack her? Or was it truly friendly? Days turned into weeks, and every night Elara went to her attic room to paint, but she couldn't focus on her work. The memory of the wolf, the beast that haunted her dreams, was always in her thoughts. Then one night, it happened again. Elara was sitting at her easel when she saw the wolf outside her window. This time, though, it wasn't alone. There were two of them, and they were joined by a she-wolf, sleek and beautiful. As Elara watched, mesmerized, the wolves began to change. Their bodies grew larger, their limbs elongated, and their features shifted. Before Elara's stunned eyes, the wolves transformed into men. Tall, muscular figures with sharp features and piercing gazes. They stood there for a moment, regarding her with an intensity that made her heart race. Then they vanished, and Elara was left alone in the darkness with her pounding heart and a canvas full of unfinished strokes. Who were they? Why did they visit her every night? And why did they keep transforming in front of her eyes? Determined to find answers, Elara began to research local folklore. She scoured old books and dusty scrolls, searching for any mention of shape-shifting wolves. Finally, she found what she was looking for, a legend about a pack of werewolf nobles who lived deep in the forest. According to the tale, the pack leader had been cursed to live as a wolf by a jealous witch. The curse could only be broken by a kiss from a pure-hearted maiden. But the story didn't say anything about the curse affecting the pack. Elara frowned. That didn't make sense. If the curse was meant for the alpha male, why did his entire pack share his fate? Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Elara decided to seek out the werewolf pack. She slipped out of her house and into the forest, following a winding path that led deeper and deeper into the trees. The air grew cooler, and the sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy above. Then she heard it, a twig snapping in the undergrowth. Elara froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Two glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, followed by the hulking form of a wolf. It stepped out of the shadows, regarding her with a predatory gaze. Fear threatened to overwhelm her, but Elara stood her ground. "I know what you are," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "You're a werewolf," the wolf snarled, baring its fangs. Then it spoke. His voice was deep and resonant, like the growl of a distant thunderstorm. "Who are you?" he demanded. "How do you know our secret?" Elara hesitated, torn between fear and fascination. Then she told them about the legend she had read. "We are cursed to live as wolves," the alpha male explained, "and our pack shares our fate." "There is a way to break the curse," Elara said, remembering the story she had read. "A kiss from a pure-hearted maiden." The she-wolf stepped forward. "Are you offering to break our curse?" she asked. Elara hesitated, torn between her desire to help the werewolves and her fear of what it would mean. If she kissed the alpha male, would she also become a werewolf? Before she could answer, the alpha male leaned in close, his hot breath on her neck. "I want you to trust me," he whispered. "If you kiss me, I will protect you from the curse." Elara hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. Then she nodded slowly. As their lips met, Elara felt a surge of power course through her veins. The kiss was electrifying, and when she pulled away, she could see that the curse had been broken. The alpha male and she-wolf stood before her, their true forms revealed. They were even more handsome than she had imagined, with strong features and muscled bodies. But their eyes, their eyes held a depth of sadness and longing that touched her heart. The alpha male, whose name she learned was Lucien, explained that the curse had also taken their voices, leaving them forever unable to speak. Elara felt a pang of sympathy for them. To lose one's voice was a terrible thing, especially for someone who had once been able to speak. But she had done what she had set out to do. She had broken the curse and freed the werewolves from their lycanthropic prison. So with a sense of satisfaction, she returned home. She didn't realize that she had stumbled into a world of magic and danger, a world where werewolves roamed the forests, and where curses could bind both body and soul. She didn't realize that she had become entangled in a destiny far greater than she could have ever imagined. For as she walked through the door of her house, she knew that her life would never be the same again. She had seen the darkness in the world, but she had also witnessed the power of love and the courage it took to face one's fears. And as the sun rose the next morning, she knew that she was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead.